You're listening to the Renegade Blitz Podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz Podcast. I'm Polk, joined by Chirs Ward, Guthrie, Rasmussen, and back with us is Max Rosenfeld. We at the Renegade Blitz hope you all had a great Christmas and hope you were able to celebrate in whatever way you could during these times. It's been a very Merry Christmas for all of Steelers Nation as it's the triumphant return of Victory Monday. And guys, that was the worst first half ever, but that second half, that was almost football heaven for me.
It's like that meme, it's like they had us in the first half, That's exactly how it felt here. I mean, I think we started with like 4 straight punts, and that was miserable to see, really. Just to start off like that, and I was definitely really really negative on the media and just very down on the team. But, they definitely proved me wrong, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, that first half, I was really starting to wonder about Roethlisberger, if was he completely done or not? I mean, I saw people on Twitter, mention Mason Rudolph, and I don't think I was to that point, but I was just kind of thinking to myself, man, this team's really going to lose out probably for the rest of the season. And they really pulled it together in the second half. Roethlisberger started throwing the ball down the field, and defense played a lot better. It was just a complete, team win on both sides of the ball. They really, pulled through there at the end.
Yeah, like you guys said, in the first half, it seemed like it was really going to be one of the all-time collapses in Steelers history. It was definitely looking pretty bad, and then Big Ben pulled him through, started calling plays in the second half. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that. And here we are, clinched the AFC North.
It feels good. It's like Tony has done it again. The Steelers have come back from 17 points down in the last 24 minutes of the game to defeat the Indianapolis Colts by the final score of 28-24. The deficit was the largest second half comeback in the Mike Tomlin era, and overall the third largest second half comeback in Steelers history. After all the heartache the past couple weeks and going into this game, the Steelers have clinched the AFC North for the first time since 2017. And I'm pretty sure all of us on Twitter and whatever else social medias we were on went through the roller coaster of emotions that game gave us. It kind of reminded me of the steel curtain at Kennywood. I want to get everyone's thoughts on perhaps the lowest point of Steelers football, just relative in terms of how high they were through those first 11 games they played. Going into halftime and then coming out of there and finally seeing a functional offense for the first time since before Thanksgiving. Did you think the Steelers were going to do this? Because I didn't think it. I said it on Twitter. Guthrie, you retweeted it. I didn't front. This wasn't going to happen. I didn't expect this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're always very active on Twitter during games. It's almost like when I'm on Twitter, it's just like whatever's on my head and I say it. And I think that's kind of the fun thing, because then I can look back and see how wrong I was. And, I'm not really embarrassed by that, because it just kind of shows hey, they proved me wrong. And, Ben proved me wrong. He just needs to continue to, pick himself up and just play good football, because he really can. He still has it. It's just he needs to get out of his head sometimes. And, that voice inside his head, that's Randy Fichtner, also needs to get out of his head sometimes, I feel like.
Yeah. At 24-7, I'd be surprised if there was a Steeler fan that did think they were going to win, honestly, the way it's been the last month. So definitely a huge turnaround. I think we're going to look back at that Deontay Johnson play, especially if the Steelers are able to go back and go on to make a playoff run here. That's going to be a play that potentially changed the season. So massive play, massive second half. Ben really turned it on when he needed to. So it was great to see that, because obviously it had started to seem like with the narrative that Ben just didn't have it anymore. And he showed us that at least in parts at times he can do it. So it was really good to just see that he still has that in the bag.
Yeah, as Max mentioned, when the Colts went down the field on their first drive of the second half, and they got a field goal, and they went up 24-7, which was a huge play by Stephon Tuitt, by the way, it was 33, and he got a sack on Rivers to force that field goal. So, and then they got stuck there at the goal line. They didn't punch the ball in and turn the ball over on downs, and defense got a quick 3 and out, and then they got good field position, and Roethlisberger threw a 39-yard touchdown pass and an incredible dive and grab by Deontay Johnson in the end zone. And from there on, it just really lit a spark for the entire team, and both sides of the ball just really started hitting all cylinders.
When you talk about the frequent occurrences for the Steelers over the season, it's slow starts whenever they possess the ball on offense. It was another predictable 3 and out, and off 3 straight slants that was either broken up or out of the receiver's hands. The immediate drive after, the Colts offense worked like clockwork. They were able to move down the field in ease, capping a 9-play, 70-yard touchdown drive with a Jonathan Taylor touchdown run. The Steelers offense did manage to capitalize on a sack fumble by TJ Watt recovered by Mike Hilton, but it was the most painful 3 plays I have ever seen at any level of sport to get a touchdown that I've ever seen, and I'm pretty sure you guys will agree with me when I say that.
And it's just seeing James Conner punch it in after, it was just so satisfying on 3rd down. I'm like, what are they going to call here? Is it going to be a screen that ends up going back 5 yards? This is the only team I've ever seen who takes 3rd and 1s and makes them 4th and 5s. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's so infuriating at times, but it was just nice to have that, because when that happened, I realized all wasn't lost, and this offense had a little bit of life in them. And James Conner, who's had a quad injury, coming off of COVID, it's just nice to see him, be able to barrel some people over to impose his will and get in the end zone.
Yeah, and kind of just going off of that, my favorite part of the run was that it was right behind David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey. And when the Steelers needed it most, that's what they decided to do, was just go power right behind their 2 best offensive linemen. And it was just really nice to see. And I like that it was James Conner, too. Benny Snell, obviously, in these short yardage situations, hasn't had a lot of success. Have to really comb through the tape a little more to see if that's more of his fault or more of the scheme. But I'm glad that it was Conner, and, right behind DeCastro and Pouncey like it should be.
I mean, that's definitely something I'd like to, like you said, look into more. Like, what is the problem right now with Benny Snell? He had 6 carries on 0 yards. It's just like, he really couldn't get anything that game. And it's hard to tell, because I think he's a capable back. We saw it, in week 1 where he had that over 100-yard game. I believe that was like our only 100-yard rusher the entire year. I believe that was said. And it's, wow, I kind of want to see more out of him. We're definitely going to need some rushing attack at some point to bail us out, I'm sure.
For the record, Guthrie, the Steelers actually started the season off with 5 straight 100-yard rushers.
Really?
Yes.
And we just, okay, so that wasn't our only, but man, that still sucks. That it's just like, I like when our Steelers have like a 100-yard rusher. I really do, and it's just been too long.
Yeah, like you guys mentioned, great effort there by James Conner on that 3rd and goal play to get into the end zone, and I think it's clear he's the best back with the Steelers. Snell does have his moments where he excels, but Conner just the more complete back. He had a really good game in the passing game as well. I thought he did a good job catching the ball out of the backfield. And the offensive line, I'm still seeing some issues with the run game. They to their credit, they did better in the pass blocking. I thought throwing away had a much better game than he did against the Bengals on Monday night. He did get blown up on that 3rd and 1 on that run play by Justin Houston, and Justin Houston tackled Benny Snell for a 2-yard loss. But overall, I thought he did a lot better. And I don't know how they figured this run game out. I don't think they're going to fix it this year. I think they have to go to the draft and rebuild the offensive line. And as much as I've just credited Conner, I think they need another solid back. Maybe they're in like round 2 or something.
Like, if they end up bringing Conner back, I'd like to have somebody else behind him as well. Sorry.
Kind of just going off what Chris said, I think, we kind of just are where we are with the run game. We're heading into week 17. It's probably not going to change, but the thing that we at least saw in this game is that the Steelers were able to run situationally. So when you can punch it in on that 3rd and 1, like, that's huge. That's in games past where they just haven't even been able to do that. So as long as they can open it up a little bit downfield with that deep threat passing game like they were able to here, loosen up the defense a little bit and run situationally. I don't think we need these 100-yard performances, but it's going to take Ben, obviously, to step up like he did.
Yeah, so what we've seen out of McFarland as well. It's like I agree. I'm not sure what we'll see, out of these number 2 backs, number 3 backs, and you want to see more. But like you guys said, I think we are where we are right now. It's just about getting those situational things, getting those third and shorts, and getting those touchdowns in the goal line. That's going to be the most important part. And if Ben can keep throwing the ball, we'll be okay.
Yeah, slow starts in the run game. That's my biggest concern heading into the playoffs, because it's tough really to win when you're that just like completely one dimensional, and the slow starts are just head scratching, because was it 5 straight games now where they went 3 and out on their first possession, which is crazy. Like, I mean, it just really makes you wonder about Randy and his like scripting plays ability.
We'll get into that a lot more, but Max, you found your train of thought. But right after that, the Colts would score back-to-back touchdowns on their offensive drives, and the Steelers' offensive drives would stall with maddening play calling that was straight out of Ask Madden. And the decision by Mike Tomlin to not leave as much time as possible at the end of the half for a struggling offense to at least luck their way into a field goal, maybe get a touchdown, who knows, would have definitely got the team booed off the field in any other year. At the time, did you agree with Mike Tomlin's decision to allow the Colts to kill the clock relative to how the offense plays in end-of-half situations and the quality of play in general from the team at that point?
Yeah, that was really frustrating for me. I definitely thought that Tomlin should have tried to have gotten the ball back with more time on the clock. Anytime you have Ben, I know that the offense didn't look great up until that point, but anytime you have Ben in those 2-minute sort of situations, I'll roll with that and see if we can get points. So I'm disappointed that Tomlin didn't do that, even though it wound up working out.
I agree. It ended up working out because we won, but can you imagine the conversations we'd be having if we lost? And yeah, it's just we won. Let's just not take away from that, but definitely, my dad was texting me and about that with just the complaints about that. And you could tell, and on Twitter, everybody did not like that move at all.
A mind-boggling decision, really, by Tomlin. Rivers handed the ball off to Hines for a 2-yard gain on 2nd and 20, and the Colts ran the clock all the way down to 26 seconds. And before that play, they had a minute to 10 left. So, I mean, 26 seconds left, and then you decide to call a timeout. I mean, I don't know what was going on there at that moment for Tomlin and what his thinking was.
I'm going to say that I would have agreed with you guys in thinking that it would have been a horrible decision if they lost. But I'm also going to look at it like this. This team just doesn't have it in these end-of-half situations where some way or another things just tend to go off-kilter whenever they need to get points at the end of the half. They're honestly better off just taking a knee and going off into the locker room at that point. But I wouldn't have been mad if they would have attempted something, but I understand why you would go, let's just go into the half right now and try to get ourselves sorted out. And that's exactly what the Steelers did. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, oddly enough, that's really when the Steelers started to throw the ball down the field on their next possession after Tomlin didn't decide to call a timeout to 26 seconds left. And Roethlisberger completed 2 passes to Juju Smith-Schuster for a combined 39 yards. And who knows what would happen if they had more time. You at least get a field goal at least. And they only won by 4 points. So, I mean, it's kind of like a thing that really didn't come back to bite them, but it could have been in a close game.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on the halftime speeches reportedly from Ben Roethlisberger and Marquise Pouncey. Those really must have been... I know that the topic was fun, but I'm pretty sure if I was a fly on the wall, I probably would have heard something that was a little bit more heated in that situation. That's just me.
Yeah, like you said, you would love to be able to hear that. I mean, I think at some point it's just like this. I think Ben was just like, we all need to play better. Let's just, fresh start. I really don't know. It's hard to speculate, but I think he just said, I think it did come down to it's just like let's just let's sling it and have some fun, and that's what they needed to do. Just start throwing the ball downfield. We definitely saw it. Just open it up a little bit. Get creative. That's just what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the guys that need to be doing that. Like I said at the top of the pod, this was pretty close to being an all-time Steeler collapse. If they had lost to the Colts on Sunday, I definitely think that they were trending towards losing against the Browns, and that would have possibly been 5 straight losses heading to the playoffs, wouldn't have had a home game. And if there was going to be that sort of collapse, then these are the guys, Roethlisberger and Pouncey, whose legacy is going to be on the line. So love that it was them. And yeah, like you guys said, would love to be a fly on the wall to hear that sort of thing. I'm sure it was a little more animosity than they let on. But yeah, glad it was them.
I heard on the NFL Network that Pouncey was more, sort of yelling, and Ben was like trying to say like you mentioned after the game, like, let's have fun. We don't look like we're having fun out there. Like you guys know, I would have been interesting to see what Tomlin said to him in the locker room at halftime. But it was a much needed win, because if they would have lost that game, being that the Jets beat the Browns, they sort of would have won the AFC North, which would have been completely awkward to like get those division championship shirts after the Browns lost. But say the Browns beat the Jets and the Steelers lost to the Colts, they would have put that game on Sunday Night Football this week, and the winner would have won the division. So it's great that the Steelers avoided a potential situation like that, and going into this week, they might rest Ben and some other key starters.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that resting at the end of the podcast. And but one more thing before we start talking about the offensive stats outlook for the game. Warren Sharp on NFL Network said that the Colts defense knew exactly what was going on in Randy Fichtner's play call. And it all changed when Ben Roethlisberger took over. Depending on if you believe Eric Ebron or what Juju Smith-Schuster said, they either practiced those plays sometime this season or they came from previous game plans of years past. What is your take on this? And should win or lose, Randy Fichtner be relieved of his duties? And we'll start with Chris, because you showed that on the Twitter account.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty interesting there. Warren Sharp sharing that clip. Michael Silver, I guess, talked to Juju Smith-Schuster, and Juju said that the Colts players were calling out plays in the first half. It's not a good look for Randy Fichtner, and Ben basically was like you mentioned earlier this year, that he was calling plays in the dirt, and that whole thing has kind of been like mixedly reported, like you mentioned with Ebron. Tomlin's kind of put that narrative down in the past, saying that Ben's not calling plays in the dirt, and then Roethlisberger said like, I was just using a figure of speech, but it just seems that when the offense goes to that no huddle attack, and Ben's calling the plays, really it's Ben's offense when they're really excelling. And some people make jokes about that, saying like people that like Randy, they'll say that like whenever it's a good play, it's all Ben, and then once it's a bad play, it's all Randy. But in this case, from what we're hearing, it really was Ben that put the team on his back and led them to a victory against the Colts.
Yeah, it is so in character of the Steelers and of Big Ben for this to even be like a controversy. Like, oh, was he drawing the plays up? Was he not? With all this, the melodramatic nature with those guys is just hilarious. But yeah, I'm definitely at a point where, especially heading into the playoffs, whatever makes Ben the most confident and the most comfortable, that is absolutely what needs to happen. Like, bottom line. So if that's himself calling the plays, then he needs to call the plays. Obviously, from what we've seen with Randy, pretty much the entire second half of the season, they've come out flat. I think Chris said at the top of the pod, is it 5 straight games that it's been 3 now to start the game? And if that's the case, that's all Randy and his opening script. So if the Steelers and if Ben are most comfortable when he's calling the plays, it's got to be him.
And instead of a script, I think what this offense thrives on is improv. Just sling it, think about it a little bit. Let Ben read the defense a little bit. I know he's not the best in the league at doing that, but he's definitely pretty good at it. Let him make his reads and just, see how the game develops. When it looks like, you have a lane for a running back in, let that happen. If you can throw a good screen pass, like that touchdown pass to Ebron, like something like that, it's just like seems like that was some kind of Ben dialed up a little bit. You saw like kind of that there was going to be an opening there. Just be creative. Just be less, have less of a script kind of to start the games. And we'll definitely get to that at the end, I'm sure, where we talk about how do you improve the opening drives. But I think it just comes down to is just not having a script all the time, because, sometimes that just doesn't help. And I think that's something they need to take away from this.
Do you guys believe there should be an open playbook, or at least on the what I like to call the restaurant menu on the quarterback's arm? It should be more or less like, hey, here's your favorite plays, something similar to like that, in which we basically give Ben the entire playbook and say, hey, you know how to read defenses. Go do your thing. And
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great idea. They always used to talk about Peyton Manning doing that, right? Where he'd go up to the line and he has like 3 plays that he can choose from. And then even off of those 3 plays, he can call audibles or hot routes and stuff like that. And I think that Ben's at that point. At this point in his career, he's seen every defense that there is to offer. He knows how he wants to attack it and where he's most comfortable. And we've heard on multiple occasions that the Steelers, when they have success, is when they go no huddle and when Ben is allowed to go to the line and make adjustments. So I definitely think that that's the best way.
Guthrie.
Yeah, I agree. But it's like to some certain extent, it's like, who knows? Maybe he'll eventually need some help from somebody. It'd just be nice to have someone on the sideline who can, maybe help him out if like Ben doesn't know, like he's just kind of lost, having kind of a bad couple drives. You might need somebody who has a different eye view. And maybe that's what we have sometimes. That's the thing. We really don't know who's calling plays at what time. I definitely think that we're at our best. We saw, the second half for sure. It was a big comeback victory. It's just when he's calling the plays, when he has that, Denny's menu of plays, it's just, it looks much better.
Yeah, and they're throwing the ball downfield a lot. That's where all their successful plays really came from. And I haven't watched the all 22 to see like the route combinations and everything going on in the first half. And I'm sure Max, I don't know if you watched the 22 yet, all 22.
Yeah, I went through the offense really quickly.
What did you see from the first half as far as targeting the ball downfield and then a difference from the second half?
So you could definitely tell the difference in the way that the defense was playing. Really in their drops, especially as the ball was snapped. In the first half, the tendency was to play up and play forward. And then it really changed, obviously, after the Deontay play. They were playing on their heels a little bit more, and it opened up. They were able to anticipate it a little less. And Ben just was taking the shots. Like, that really was the difference. There are shots that are there if you go back and watch the tape. Pretty much the entire season, there's been shots that are there that Ben just won't take them. Or when he does, he's just a little inconsistent with it. So you could definitely tell the difference after Ben started showcasing the desire to take those shots in the way that the defense responded.
Yeah, late in that game, when Rosenfeld really started just, was in sync and everything and was completing everything, really. You could see like the Colts were like dropping back their linebackers and their defensive back, and it was so relieving to see because like we haven't seen that in how many games where he could check down and get those underneath throws and it's just like for so many weeks like safeties were just playing so far up and like they figured out the Steelers quick dink and dunk passing game. So I think that's really Ben at his best when he's back there and just like throwing the ball deep down the field. And like you mentioned, he showed that he can throw it down the field because like that's been a concern. Like, does Ben still have his deep ball? And I know you mentioned on the previous podcast that like he still can throw that 15, 20-yard pass. And I think in this game, he proved a lot of people wrong that like, hey, I still can throw the ball deep. And he showed that with that 39-yard touchdown pass to Johnson.
And yeah, the play to Johnson is the one that's everyone's talking about. And even like I said, it's pretty much the play that potentially changed the season. But I thought even though that they wound up turning it over on downs in the in-goal situation on the series before that, that the 35-yard play to Chase Claypool really is kind of also what opened up the defense. And that's really where I thought Ben gained some confidence was on that play. He saw a one-on-one matchup to Chase Claypool on the outside, and Chase had a great inside release to get open, wide open, and just made a great play for a 34-yard gain to put them in that end-goal situation. So that was really the first instance to me where I really thought that after that, Ben was like, all right, I can do this. And he took a shot downfield, and then it was just more of them, and connected on the Deontay one for the touchdown.
Interesting insight, guys. And you'll get that on the RenegadeBlitz.com with Max Rosenfeld, so be sure to check those articles out whenever they come out. And now it's time to talk about the offense, and it hasn't been any more clear this season than this game for the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger is the entire hope for any shot at the Steelers making the Super Bowl. In the first half, he was bad, so the team was bad. Only 90 yards total passing. And in the second half, Backyard Ben returned, and all was well. What are your thoughts on his performance, especially in the second half? And we'll start with Guthrie.
He did, really well. Literally, it's like, it's horrible to think this, but I was on Twitter complaining, like, do we need to see Mason Rudolph as rest Ben the rest of the playoffs? Like, because he just doesn't seem like his head was really in it in the first half, and I just think that was just kind of a snowball of events. But he definitely came out in that half. Whatever they said, at halftime, it definitely worked. So just give that pep talk at the beginning of the game every time, and I think we'd all be happy. I'm just hoping we see from Ben just an improved, first drive all around the offense, and I think it starts with Ben. Just figure something out, like just to be, get some production, just set the tone early, kind of just where we don't have to wait till the second half to see this, because it'd be nice to start hot one time.
Yeah, like you guys said, it's just unbelievable in the second half, and it's just another, memorable Roethlisberger game in his long career with the Steelers. This game will always, for me at least, remember as people saying that like he's done and everything. So many headlines, so many different stories, and him coming out there and he played bad in the first half, and then I saw stuff on Twitter like mentioned the Undertaker, like when he the GIF when he opens the thing up and rises up, and that's kind of how I felt Roethlisberger was in this game. He just you could never count out number 7. He's just a great competitor. He's a lot of people in the media and teammates say he's one of the most competitive people they've ever been around, and he really showed that in the second half there.
It was just gritty, man. It was so great to see Ben do that. Not that Steelers Nation should listen to anything that Colin Cowherd says, but I remember hearing him during the week last week suggesting that in the offseason, the Steelers get some quarterback in there to play a few games during the regular season next year so that Ben isn't gassed by the end of the year, and just all these crazy narratives that we had heard about Ben the past couple weeks. It felt so good to see him ball out and be the main catalyst for them coming all the way back. It just feels so good to see Big Ben do that, like you guys said.
Well, if there's one thing that needs improvement for the Steelers, it's the running attack. The running backs only had 20 yards on 11 carries. The only saving graces were a James Conner touchdown after that sack fumble recovery, and a run out of the pistol that netted 12 yards. Guthrie, we've been waiting for it. We got this, and I also want to make sure I attribute this man, Josh Taylor of KDKA. We both tweeted the same GIF and arguably the same tweet at the same time. So I know that there's a lot of people that were thinking, oh my God, not only a successful run, but it's out of the pistol. Conner was much more effective, as Chris said, in the receiving game. And I know we're always going to be grasping for whatever type of straw, be it big or small, when it comes to the running game. Could this one run be a jumping point? Should carries be focused on Conner and only due to Snell's inconsistency, he should be used as a in case of emergency basis? In short, should we really just say, James Conner, you're the only one getting the ball?
I trust Conner out of the pistol every time. That's his bread and butter. In college, that's what he primarily ran, and we talked about this the entire season on the podcast. Where's this been? And I think it's mainly been due to Watt being kind of, on this being injured and not being 100%. But it's just nice to be able to see results from that, and just keep it up. That's all I'm going to say.
I don't think I'll completely abandon Snell because I think he's still a good runner. He showed that against the Bengals that he still can produce. But I'll definitely go with Conner. I think they'll not split carries, but you still have to get Snell in there. I feel like, but I don't know. It's a tricky situation because I don't see them, like we mentioned previously. I don't see them fixing the run game issues that they've been having.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I'd stick with James Conner pretty much for the most part. I'd still mix in Benny Snell here and there, but James Conner's got to be the primary guy. He's not exceptional necessarily at anything, but he's pretty solid at everything. So he's not going to be like a game changer necessarily, but he's definitely the running back that I trust most on the roster.
And we've been calling for Watt, and clearly, I guess nothing's really working on the offensive line or any any impact blocking, I guess, so to speak. So it's going to be interesting to see if the pistol is going to be used more often compared to maybe a single back formation, aces, or something like that. The straw that stirs the drink for the Steelers certainly stirred again. The drops continued, but it was manageable really compared to the stretch that was started earlier this month for the receiving game. And of course, the game changed when Deontay Johnson caught that 39-yard bomb that, again, was crucial towards the offense believing in itself again. I know there's the Claypool catch on the previous drive before that, but that was really where it was clear, okay, they got something going. And with that pass, really, even the bonanza slants that was on earlier with Randy Fichtner worked after that play because, again, the Colts backed up. And suddenly, whenever you want to go underneath, it's viable. And it can potentially get you 12 or 15 yards like a couple of those screens that Connor did. So, I want to know, and I want to ask this again just in case so you guys can make it clear. Who out of the receiving group made the most important play, in your opinion? Chris?
I'll just go back to the Johnson catch. I think that just really was what gave them a spark in the game. But also Juju's game-winning catch. That was an amazing contested catch. Ben was incredible pump fake, his signature move throughout his career. And I thought receivers played really well. All three of them, other than like James Watt, he didn't really get that many targets. But and Ebron too had a nice touchdown there, in the red zone.
Yeah, you really can't. It's hard to pick one. I definitely agree with that Deontay catch. That was magical. It just felt like to turn the tide a little bit. Like Claypool also, he had a couple good downfield catches, and like you said, that Juju catch. It's. I feel like I'm restating you, but it makes me feel really happy. That these guys are hopefully, knock on wood, getting over those kind of that drop saga we experienced a couple weeks ago, because that kind of sucked, and it's just nice to see our guys and succeeding, especially Deontay. Kind of after that, he was really the poster boy for that whole thing.
Yeah, we're kind of reciting the same plays here, but definitely the Deontay catch is really pretty much stands out to me as the play of the season to this point. And going back to that Claypool catch that we talked about earlier too on the drive where they didn't wind up scoring, something else that I thought was really great on that play is that I think it gave Ben the confidence that he could hold on to the ball for another second. It was the protection on that play. If you go back and watch, it was really, really good across the board. He had a nice clean pocket and was able to hold it to make that 35-yard pass. And so I think that after he saw that the offensive line could do that, that also gave him the confidence to hold on to the ball a little bit longer and led to some of the stuff we saw in the fourth quarter.
I agree with all three of your sentiments. I just want to add in the other touchdown scorer and Eric Ebron. Did you guys see the tweet that he had after he had some nice words to say about his time in Indianapolis? I know that he kind of taunted the bench, but he still managed to dap them up at the end of the game. Maybe it's because I'm a very nice person. I don't see why people are hating on this man so hard. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he had 13 touchdowns for Indy. He's given us 5 here. He's arguably the best tight end they've had since Heath Miller. Unless you really want to spread some love to Vance McDonald knocking down a Conti, and also Jesse James saying he still caught it. I mean, come on. Objectively, and you look at the stats, that man has been the one good tight end we've had in a while. And frankly, I want that man to get his due, and I want other franchises to stop being in his mentions. I'm an Ebron fan for life now. I don't care. I've always liked him in North Carolina, so as far as I'm concerned, everyone can just buzz off because Ebron's my boy. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I did see you mention, he said he enjoyed playing with the Colts and we had a lot of good friendships there. So maybe that will, make Colts fans feel better about him. I don't know. I know they kind of feel some type of way, and Lions fans too. Didn't have a good run there with him, obviously because they haven't had a lot of success, and he did pretty good there with the Lions, right? It just like overall he phased out there, right?
Yeah, it was around that. I think it was just like a combination of like, Detroit's just not a very good football city right now for a lot of reasons. And again, with Indianapolis, he had 18 touchdowns in 2 seasons, one with 13.
He was
I
really
don't see
good
what's the problem.
So I mean, he's done well. I mean, he's fixed the dropping. I know a couple of weeks back there, he was dropping some balls, and his comment about the Super Bowl and his podcast kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. But I think people they should get over some of the stuff that happened in the past. Just move on forward, and he's been productive as late.
Yeah, I can understand where his personality probably rubs people the wrong way. I know certainly during the losing streak that was one thing that was talked about, but overall, you can't ask for a guy that's probably at best the 4th target out there. No,
I'm just very happy with kind of what we've seen out of Ebron. I mean, this guy, during the free, I feel like what's his face? Here's a guy, and it's just like I feel like when we signed him, I was just very surprised, and that was probably. Sorry, you can cut that out. I know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is I was just very surprised that we ended up signing him in free agency. It's just not a move I saw the Steelers making, and then when we made the move, it's just I was very excited because I just felt like we made a good splash play. And I mean, for the most part, I'd say it's paid off. I hope they're in the playoffs. He really gets a chance to show shut up the haters and just play ball, because I think he is that receiving threat that we've been missing.
All right, last little bits on the offense. Thoughts on the offensive line? They only gave up 1 sack and 2 hits after throws. They actually protected noticeably well, which we've been saying throughout our coverage of the wide receivers and quarterbacks, by way of Ben not having to throw immediately, testing that 2.02 release time of the football. And also, we should talk about Kevin Dotson. He made his return from injury, and as Pro Football Focus mentioned, as the starting left guard, over 50 pass blocking snaps on a day, and he didn't allow a single pressure. And with a great defensive tackle in DeForest Buckner, you really can't ask for anything much more out there. So I want your thoughts on Dotson. I want your thoughts on the rest of the offensive line's performance.
Yeah, Dotson was awesome in pass pro. He's really grown into that, and he really is becoming one of the better pass protectors in the entire NFL, in my opinion. The Steelers' offensive line, especially like we've been saying, in the second half, it was really good. In the first half, there was some issues, especially at tackle. Villanueva got blown up a few times. Chooks is Chooks. So he wasn't too great either. But they really seemed to fortify it in the second half. They played more physical, and they were able to keep Ben upright, and that's all that matters.
Chris?
Yeah, I thought the offensive line had a bounce back performance compared to what happened in the Bengals. That was a real rough performance there. But yeah, Villanueva, it's basically what everything Max said. I agree. It was, Ben got sacked once, and that was on that safety blitz. And I think, was that Chooks that missed the safety coming in?
Yeah, I believe that was Chooks.
Yeah, so overall, it was a pretty good performance by the offensive line.
That sack, though, by that, I don't know who it was, and I feel bad. I just know he's number 37. It's just like, for that to be the only sack, I'll take it. It's just, we didn't let DeForest Buckner kill us, basically,
Yeah, because the Colts play-by-play man, Matt Taylor, again, we thank him for coming on for the preview. He was really hyping up that defensive line for the Colts, and it was surprising because it's just like, I remember Buckner at least doing some things in run defense, but then again, a lot of guys do a lot of things in run defense over on the Steelers. So, I mean, hey, props to Dotson, props to this offensive line for kind of going back into the time machine and allowing Ben to go back into the time machine and be a nice part of this win. And now it's time to talk the defense. And they came through this week with turnovers, 2 of them, the missing ingredient in the past couple weeks. The return of Vince Williams and the return of form to Stephon Tuitt was greatly appreciated. They were led by the should-be unanimous Defensive Player of the Year in TJ Watt, and a man who's ready to ride the Brinks truck all the way to the bank in Mike Hilton. On the Colts' second play of the game, Watt got a rare one-on-one and took advantage for a sack, and then he caused a sack fumble that paved the way for that then anemic offense to score its first points of the game. And I also want to say this right now, TJ Watt was getting held, and when I mean held, he was put into a standing arm triangle choke at one point, trying to get to Phillip Rivers. Just insane how much this league decides not to give a man that's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year holding calls. It really is an offensive league, people. But anyway, as we go on to Mike Hilton, he also continues to be himself, which is just a pain for Phillip Rivers. He secured a huge interception on one of those long heaves that allowed the Steelers to kill some clock before the Colts got one final chance that was shut down by the defense, thanks to Alex Highsmith, who pressured Phillip Rivers twice on plays that caused that interception and caused that important pass breakup that won the game for the Steelers. Against the second best pass blocking unit with a little bit of injury trouble due to COVID and one of their right tackles had a leg injury, they recorded 5 sacks and 8 quarterback hits. What are your thoughts on the splash plays and the pass rush in this game?
Yeah, second half, they really came to life, really, the whole team. But I was really impressed with Highsmith. He had 2 really key pressures. And you mentioned that he was going up against a backup tackle and later in the game, a third-string tackle. But, he forced Rivers to throw that interception to Hilton in the fourth quarter. And then he also had a pressure on Rivers on the final 4th and 10 play for the Colts where Rivers overthrew his intended receiver. And on that play, he had a really nice spin move. There was clips going on around Twitter of it. And I was really impressed with Highsmith.
Mike Hilton makes plays. That's my takeaway. I want to get that on a t-shirt. Mike Hilton makes plays. That guy is just so impressive. He's all over the place. And I just love his physicality from being a defensive back. He still hits and he comes downhill and is great in the run game. So he's really the big takeaway for me. Obviously, Highsmith with the pressure. We know what we're getting with TJ Watt, and this is still a championship caliber defense. I think the one difference obviously is missing Bud Dupree. You go from maybe an all-time defense to just an elite defense, but this is still an elite defense to me, and they showed it, especially in the second half.
Yeah, all I'll say is I'll put a big period on what you guys have said. It's just business as usual so far from this season, what we're seeing from this defense.
And of course, 21 of the Colts' 24 points came in the first half. Their field goal was the first points they've had was the first point scored in the second half. And the offensive attack was very balanced, as Matt Taylor said in the preview podcast. You're looking on there, Zach Pascal, T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle, Michael Pittman Jr., Mo Alley Cox, Nyheim Hines, Trey Burton, all recorded a catch in this game. And when you look at their yard totals, especially Pascal, Hilton, and Doyle, they were all in and around each other with between 50 and 64 yards receiving between all three. But the rushing attack for the Colts really found a way to get through on the Steelers. Jonathan Taylor led the way with 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. It seems that teams have really decided to open up the attack on the, which is very rare against the Steelers, and they are now starting to get more success than we're generally accustomed to. And that opened up that Pascal touchdown, which he just burned Joe Hayden. Are you worried about the run defense's downward trend in the past couple weeks? I want to start with Max because I'm curious if that's going to be something that you cover whenever you talk about keys to the game this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last time I was on the pod, I talked about the run defense also with Marcus Allen playing that money backer spot that we talked about. And to me, I'm not too worried right now with Vince Williams coming back just because of the way that he plays and plays downhill, hard, fast, physical. I think that he is a really important asset to stopping the run. But that's what the Colts do. They're a great run offense. They have two really effective backs. Quentin Nelson might be the best offensive lineman in the entire league. And we saw Romo talking about that during the game, really emphasizing how he was even able to move Cam Hayward at times during the game. So because of the matchup, I'm not too concerned. And with Vince Williams back, he played 100% of the snaps I saw. So that's huge to me. Hopefully we get Spillane back for the playoffs. But right now, because of the personnel, I just trust the personnel to figure it out.
Chris, you actually talked a little bit about that the previous year with Quentin Nelson and Cam Hayward. Was that a matchup you were looking forward to in this game?
Yeah, I was watching it during the game, and I'm interested to see when I go back and watch it. But, Max is right. Nelson's unbelievable center, and the Colts have a really good offensive line. They were hurt there with not having their two starting tackles, but like you mentioned with what Matt Taylor told us, that they're just a really good balanced team, and they could run it or throw it, and they have two good dual threat running backs. I was really impressed with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. I didn't realize how fast Hines was. He's a really good player, and on that one run there in the second half, TJ Watt I don't know if he saved a touchdown, but he saved a pretty big run there for Hines.
I mean, yeah, their rushing attack. I don't think there's really anything wrong, with our defense. Like you said, I think Spillane coming back will be huge as well. They run hard, and that's been their identity all year. There's nothing much more to say other than that. But it's like if we play a team like, I don't want to look too far ahead, but if we play the Ravens in the playoffs, do I think we'll be able to slow them down a little bit? Yeah, I think our defense matches up well against their offense, like that rush-heavy offense, where we'd be able to slow them down as much as we could. I think they give up. If they're persistent enough, they can give up, but they stick on bend, they don't break, and I think that's the best thing about them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Guthrie. Bend, don't break is the most important thing. And something else I'll add is that I noticed, especially in the first half and the first series, especially, was that the Colts had a really good game plan, and they came out with a really good script. And some of those runs that were successful to start the game, there was a lot of misdirection going on where the offensive line was all blocking to the right, and all of a sudden Taylor is going to the left, and they pitch it out to Taylor for 6-7 yards. So there were some of those misdirection plays where I think the Steelers defense just kind of got caught moving one way and the play was going the other. So I think that kind of also skews the stats. But like we've just been saying overall, I'm not too worried about the run defense heading into the playoffs.
Guys, any thoughts on special teams? I didn't add it to the rundown, but I wanted to make sure that Guthrie, we're still waiting for Ray to break one, and I guess we're just going to have to wait until the playoffs.
Hey, that's okay. That'd be nice. I think Matthew Wright did well. I think he made all of his extra points, so that's all we can really ask for him.
Yeah, I agree with Guthrie. Said a backup kicker, on the practice squad to make those extra points, and just a 4-point win is credit to him. I thought he did his job. He made all those extra points.
Real quick before we get back into this, I just remembered off the top of my head, Deontay Johnson had a cameo in the punt return game. He, of course, came up a little gimpy. I know that I don't know if there's like any sort of thing, because generally the main kick returner is also the main punt returner. But would you like to see some things like that where it was a change of pace, like it was last year whenever we had Switzer as our punt kick returner?
I'm always so iffy on this, especially going back to like Antonio Brown, where it's like, do you really want to use this guy and potentially put him in harm's way on special teams? But I guess in spots, maybe if you're in a place where maybe you're down, you really need to flip the field and want to get a big return going, then maybe. But for the most part, I'd stick with Ray.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just, it's just nice to feature different people, but it's like it comes down to injury. And not saying that, Ray, I think he brings stuff to the the passing attack of the run game too. But so far, I think he's been the best return guy we've had in a while. Not the last couple of weeks for sure. I would like to see some improvement, but he definitely, he hasn't had many mistakes, and that's all I really want is get the catch, and if you can get the fair catch, and just know when to take the fair catch really, and I think we all are happy with that.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Deontay Johnson's just too good a receiver. He's their best route runner and guy that could get separation. You don't want to take that chance with him returning punch when you have a pretty good serviceable guy in McLeod, who been really solid all year. I mean, for a while there, a few weeks back, he had some issues there catching the punts, but overall, I'm fine with McLeod returning the punts.
So I want your final thoughts on the Colts game. What surprised you, and what do you want to see more of?
I want to see them continue to throw the ball down the field. I think, like we mentioned, it's clear we're going into week 17. They don't have an effective run game. Just get those situational runs, and certain moments you have to get that first down, and you have to get that red zone touchdown in the goal line situation. That's really where they need to excel. And I just hope they keep on throwing the ball down the field, because that's when Ben's at his best. And it was just so refreshing to see Juju, who coming into this game was averaging 8.2 yards per reception. It was great to see him get a 25-yard touchdown.
What surprised me was that the Steelers were actually able to get a rushing touchdown. That pleasantly surprised me. That was great to see, but definitely hadn't seen it in a while, so I forgot that was even allowed. I thought that was against the rules for the Steelers to do that. But something I'd like to see more of is play action. There's a play that I'm thinking of in the first half where I believe it was 3rd and short, and there was little quick play action, and the Ben hit a quick pop pass slant to Juju for a first down. And you could tell that even though he didn't entirely bite on the play action fake, the linebacker froze, which allowed the lane to open up for Juju to catch that ball. So just little things like that, especially if you're still going to be doing this quick strike offense, quick timing offense. Play action, mix it up, get creative with it still. I want to see more of that still.
Yeah, completely agree with what you guys said. For what surprised me is that we actually won, that we're playing winning football again, and that's just nice after these last couple of weeks, because that really can take a toll on you after. I don't want to sound like boo-hoo, poor us. It's just like we won 11 games straight and then we lose 3. It's just, it's definitely, it definitely gets you down in the dumps a little bit and just kind of being all negative. So it's just nice that we played some winning football. It surprised me, just seeing that. I want to see more creativity on offense. I'll keep it simple. Just, try to keep defenses off their toes a little bit. Just don't always have to have an opening script or a script anyway. Just play situational football basically, and win those, and be physical at the line of scrimmage. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I want to see more capitalization off of these defensive plays that are getting them in prime scoring opportunities. Of course, you also want to see them back on schedule, especially in their first drives. Get some points right now. It doesn't have to be a touchdown. It could be a field goal, because at this point, just anything that you can put on the board early would be so helpful for this defense, and maybe it'll allow them to free themselves up a little bit more, and we could see more of these interceptions, more of these sack fumbles, because these were coming out of the blue for the Steelers, and they need to be a little bit more common. All right, guys, so it's official. AFC North title, the Steelers are going to have a home game in round 1. Who would you want and not want to face in round 1?
For me, who I would want to face, given the options, is probably the Dolphins. Just because I'm assuming that would be against a rookie quarterback, and still that's the weakest offense, the most inexperienced team. And with those 2 AFC North options on the board, and the other option being a team that you just saw, none of those are all too appealing. So I would say that the Dolphins is a team, especially if they're going with Tua, that I would want to see. And then the team that I would least want to see, I think, is probably the Baltimore Ravens, if I'm being honest, just because how tough and how physical that game is going to be. And they came real close to beating us last time. So it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. So I think the Ravens is the team that I would be most worried about playing in the first round.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you with Miami. And if you're a Miami fan, that's not like an insult to you guys. It's just look. I just would not rather play a divisional opponent or the Bills, especially with how hot the Bills are. I mean, the game's on right now. I won't talk about it, but So far it looks like the Bills might win. So it's just like that team's hot. Stephon Diggs, they tore us up. I want a chance to get even with them, but man, I just don't see me wanting to play them. In round one, that'd be a tough matchup. So I would go with the Dolphins.
I'll probably say the Dolphins too, but switch it up. I'll say the Titans will probably be the most team. I would hope to see the Steelers play just because I don't think the Titans' defense is that very good in the secondary, and they only have 14 sacks this year, which T.J. Watt himself has 15. So I think that'll be the best matchup for the Steelers. I mean, Henry will be a handful, but they did pretty well against them when they played this year. But as far as the team that I don't want to see, it's the Ravens. I do not want to see Steelers play the Ravens because I think their defense matches up well with the Steelers, and their run game's a handful for the Steelers to defend, and Lamar Jackson just a dynamic player and obviously really talented. And a sleeper team would probably just be the Colts. I wouldn't want to see the Steelers play them again, especially since they just played them this past week. And really, they beat them by 4 points. And the Colts kind of, in some ways, I know their fans are thinking this. They think their coaching staff blew that game for them with not running the ball enough in the second half. So it should be interesting to see who they play in the wild card round.
Well, I'm going to go completely off the wall. I actually want to face the Ravens in round one. Okay. I think sometimes you just have to have some team that you don't like, and you have to remember, I know it didn't exactly go well the last time the Steelers faced the Ravens in the playoffs, but with Ben Roethlisberger at the helm, and just until Lamar Jackson shows me that he could play playoff football, I still think that the Steelers could have an upper hand against them. It's kind of rude of me to say that, but I'm just like this week, I'm a believe it when I see it type of guy. And the team that I actually don't want to face, ironically, is the Titans. Now, I think Derrick Henry, with a second crack at the Steelers, especially with just how the running game has looked, and you're going to get Spillane back, hopefully, for round one, but it's not exactly a game that I would welcome coming back, because you have to remember, even Spillane did get that big stop on the goal line against him, but he got a little hurt in the process of it. And it's just seeing the Titans, they're built for a playoff run. They didn't look good up in the snow in Lambeau, but not a lot of teams really look good whenever you have to go through Green Bay in the winter up there. My next question for you guys is another big question that's been coming around in both the media and Steelers Nation on Twitter and Facebook. Should the Steelers rest players in Cleveland? Now, you could choose this in a variety of ways. Me, personally, this team has shown they finally have caught some sort of offensive fire, and I would put this team in a situation, especially with Ben on offense, where they play the first half, and they go out there, and they just try to treat it like no huddle immediately. Try to establish that, a little bit of like what we talked about with, instead of scripting, kind of just like free-flowing the play calling a little bit and seeing if that can work a little bit against this team, and try to see if they can get out early on the Browns, which is going to be tough, but still, at least having some reps. I probably wouldn't have Deontay Johnson in there, just like anyone that has a previous injury history this season, and I guess that also includes Ben, I probably wouldn't want to see, but at least at the very least, give them a half, and let's see if they can still come in there with a little bit of juice going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I like your take. However, this for the entertainment purposes, I want to see a Miles versus a Mason matchup.
I agree.
It'd be the heavyweight match of the ages, really. I don't know. Personally, this with Ben, it's just I think you just got to rest him. I think that's just I don't know. You don't know his he might be having, if he's having like his arms hurting at all. I think you just got to do the safe thing and just give him the week off. But then again, like you said, you're opening the door to potential other issues, starting off slow in the playoffs. But I don't know. You got to pick your poison here. You got to take the risk, or you could have a better rested Ben. I like the half idea. I just don't know if that'll happen. Like, what if we're losing at the half? Do you just pull them anyway, kind of? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. there's nothing really changing, and I believe that they're locked into a home playoff game, and especially in a year like this where there's probably going to be no crowd in there till if the governor really feels up to it and wants to throw Pittsburgh a bone, maybe he might let in another 5,000 in the Heinz Field.
I hope something like that happens. That was kind of my prediction, is they'd get, hopefully for the playoff, at least some. Like, were the families even there? I don't want to get into it too much, but I didn't even see really any of the families in the stands.
Not now. With the new restriction, it's nobody now. But before they were allowing just the family members. But I don't know what's going to go on for the playoffs. Well, it should be interesting to see. I know the Bills are trying to get fans in there. That'll be like the first time they'll have fans all year at a game in the state of New York, and I think they have to like prove that they tested negative for COVID, I think, or something like that.
Their fans would do that too. So I mean, let them in. Let's get a couple of them in there. And this has been a historic season for the Bills. I don't want to get into it, but like it just sucks. Like I've had friends who've been fans of the Buffalo Bills, and it's just like just to have them know that they're not there. Like for this, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean this is a tough situation for the Steelers. I don't know about tough, but like there's two sides to everything, because like the Bills, they want to get that number 2 seed. I would imagine, like, so, and the Dolphins have a lot to play for. So if the Bills beat the Dolphins, then they'll clinch the number 2, but if they lose, that opens the door for the Steelers to get the number 2 seed and have another home game in the divisional round, guaranteed. So it should be interesting to see. I would probably rest Ben just because, like, 38-year-old quarterback, and he's been dealing with some minor injuries with his knees and everything. And I think overall the team has looked tired, in the past. So just I think they need that week. Key players at least get some rest, because this will be the 13th straight game they've had without pretty much a bye, because they had that week 4 bye and it was unexpected. So some people didn't even count it really.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ty's take on this one. I like playing him in the first half and then sitting the key guys in the second half, just because, you don't want him to be completely rusty heading into the playoffs, but you want him to get a little bit of a rest, especially given the fact that we've heard some of the players kind of complaining about the way the schedule is played out in the second half of the season with the delays, and then obviously they played 3 games in 12 days, and they even mentioned it on the broadcast where the players were saying, not making excuses necessarily, but bringing up the fact that they've been playing a lot of football recently without a break. So a half a break, I think, would be the way to go. As fun as it would be, though, to knock the Browns out of the playoffs potentially, you got to play it safe for yourselves.
You know the picture of Elmo with the fire behind him? That's just how I feel when I...
And guys, we have a little bit of a big day as we record this on Monday. 15 articles out. You guys must have like some bad wrists right now. And of course, you also did the Locker Room show. We got on FoxNews.com for the coverage of Juju Smith-Schuster's mom having a little bit of trouble with some. I wouldn't want to be associated if they are Steelers fans. We'll just call them undesirable individuals in a lot of ways. It's been a really good day for us as well, because we're finally up on Google AdSense. So that means that our articles, yes, even you, Max, you might be able to get paid. And that's always a good feeling. So Guthrie, just talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, because I'm so happy that we have this team kind of built, like, with guys like Max and everybody else who's just contributed to the, just talking, coming on here, spending like an hour and a half like other night just talking about Steelers. Like, this is something I didn't imagine myself doing, and it just feels so cool to be doing it. And it's been kind of draining. So finally to have some news that feels good, that like we could potentially be compensating for doing something we love, and like I really enjoy reading our contributors' work, and like everybody else's work. So it's just, I want to be able to, show them some appreciation and just, give them chances to continue to grow, while also paying them for their time. Cause it's, like I would do this for free, but at some point, like when this is over, like, the virus, hopefully eventually, it's just like when you have, like, you have to go back and get a real job, go back to school. It's just like, it's going to be hard, putting your time out just to like just write for free, especially in the off season. It's going to be a tough off season for sure. This would have been nice to happen earlier, but hey, we're all excited, and we'll just see where it leaves us. We're not there yet, but we can definitely see the end goal of what we were trying to do when we started this, and it only took all year, and it's been a wild year. So here we go. It's just waiting for it to happen.
It's been 2020 has been an unexpected year, and that's really how we started the whole website and podcast, because me and Zach were with SB Nation, with Behind the Steel Curtain. We were there for almost 2 years, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic and everything, a lot of people have been hurt in business, money wise and and everything. So we were let go because of the financial situations, and I really enjoyed my time with Behind the Steel Curtain. Learned a lot from them. A great group of guys. Zach, after that, we just said, hey, why don't we start our own website and everything? I know for me, I had a lot of time on my hands, so it really helped, during this, COVID pandemic and everything, and really appreciate all the contributors' work. I'm just learning every day. It's my first year really writing and doing podcasts and stuff. I really never thought I would be doing this really in some ways, but just every day trying to get better at it.
Yeah, and this going back onto Google, it's just like we've been looking at different kind of ad agencies, and a lot of it's just been us trying to prove ourselves. And Google's kind of, it's an automated kind of thing. Like we have to apply, and I think somebody reviews it, but you really can't talk to anybody at Google. So you basically have to keep sending in applications until eventually they say yes. And they never, when they did deny us a couple times, I think they denied us a total of 3 times at the beginning. It's just, they never gave a reason why. And I think that basically just came down to the viewership. So definitely want to thank all the viewers out there for reading our articles, watching our videos, and just, giving us a shot to be their source of Steelers news, or a little bit of a slice of their Steelers news, because we definitely have fun doing it. So we're going to, continue to grow. Just because we're monetizing our stuff won't mean that we'll put any less effort into it. If anything, it'll just help motivate us to keep bringing you the best content as possible to get you guys to click our stuff, but also not be deceptive about it. Just, bring you some clear Steelers news and just keep you coming.
Absolutely. And the next thing up is Twitter verifications for us.
Oh, yeah.
You're out there. But Max, of course, you've been a part of this. We're excited to see what you have for the keys of the game, and also all 22s on the Renegade Blitz. Is there anything you're thinking of writing about for this week?
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of take another look into the Browns. And really, I think I'm going to do a lot of looking back also, just kind of on this week. Wait and see who's going to play this week for the Steelers, really, before I'm able to kind of really go into the keys to the game. But it's exciting. I'm also going to start to get some work done on potential playoff opponents. Look at that. Have previews ready for those. So really excited for this playoff season, for the off season. Glad that people are listening to our podcast and reading our articles and stuff. It's really exciting just to be able to talk about the Steelers and to have people listen. Pretty simple as that. So it's just really cool.
As always, we thank you for your continued contributions, and I thank you guys for tuning into the podcast, because this is kind of what I've always wanted to do podcasts and stuff like that. And also, as you can tell, I like to talk a lot, so this works out really well for me. I can also write too. I occasionally do some things for RenegadeBlitz.com, and I certainly want to add myself to maybe 15 more articles on RenegadeBlitz.com. And of course, we all do this because of your support, so we thank you for that. This week, we will have on Tom Livers, sports writer for the Associated Press, on to talk the Cleveland Browns and the season finale for the Steelers. For Chirs Ward, Guthrie Rasmussen, Max Rosenfeld, and the rest of the Renegade Blitz staff, I'm Polk. We want to wish you a happy new year and good tidings into it. And you've been listening to the Renegade Blitz. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, and like us on Facebook. Our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeart, and Spotify.